This is Think Out Loud on OPB. I'm Dave Miller. Almost two-thirds of Oregon workers over the age of 40 say that they've experienced or witnessed discrimination on the job based on age. That's according to a survey of 1,000 Oregonians that was released earlier this month by AARP of Oregon. The group put out the report in support of a bill they are championing. It would add more restrictions against age discrimination and stiffer punishments for violators. Carla Peluso is one of the chief sponsors of the bill in the state house. She's a Democratic representative from Gresham. She joins us now. We're also joined by Paloma Sparks. She's a general counsel for Oregon Business and Industry, which advocates on behalf of Oregon businesses. It's great to have both of you on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to hear from you.
Carla Peluso first. What kind of age discrimination are we talking about exactly?
Well, basically, age discrimination can vary, but we've heard stories from people who don't get hired for a job because of their age, got passed up for promotions, or who heard negative remarks about their age at work. This problem disproportionately affects women, contributing to economic gender inequality in our state.
How does this disproportionately affect women if it's based, literally on age? How is it that women are more impacted?
Because most, again, as women age, they are not being taken for granted that their time's up. So and it seems to be very disproportionate between men and women.
Employers in Oregon are already barred from making most hiring decisions based on age. There are a few carve-outs that are still present even in your bill that we're not talking about now. But in general, it's against state law to make hiring decisions or employment decisions based on age. How would your bill change the current law?
Well, we've partnered with AAUW and AARP to make a balanced and effective age discrimination policy. So this bill does three things. It number one, ban the age box. That would prohibit employers from asking age identifying information on job applications so older workers aren't screened out. For example, asking someone their high school graduation year can be kind of a sneaky way to ask their age, so we want to address that. Secondly, we want to improve the definition of age discrimination. This would update the definition of age discrimination to include actions based on characteristics closely associated with age, like retirement status, unless the employer can show that age was not at all a factor in the decision. This legislation ensures that perks for longer-term workers like the seniority system are not disrupted. And third, it increases the victim compensation for those who experience age discrimination in order to deter employers from discriminating. This would bring the state statute more in line with the federal age discrimination statutes.
As I mentioned, Paloma Sparks is here as well, General Counsel for Oregon Business and Industry. What is your chief concern about this bill?
So age discrimination has been unlawful under federal and state law for decades. And I don't know how we can make it more unlawful if employees are still feeling, I definitely read the study by AARP. If employees are still feeling that way, then the problem isn't the laws. The problem is education. We need to focus more on educating our employers. I think maybe it's time we try something new. We keep on trying enhanced penalties, more laws on top of what we already have. That's our main concern.
Are you against, for example, saying to employers in Oregon, you can't ask for quote unquote digital natives? That's an example that's actually in the law as a kind of coded language, a way to specifically advertise for millennials, people who grew up with technology. Are you against banning that kind of language?
So that kind of language is already banned in existing law. Employers are prohibited from expressing directly or indirectly any limitation, specification, or discrimination as to an individual's age.
When I looked doing relatively cursory research, and I'm not a lawyer, I didn't see that phrase exactly is banned, digital native. I haven't seen that the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission has made that kind of an assessment. That I've seen that people say this seems discriminatory, but not that it's been laid out in statute or in some kind of case law.
So I guess my concern would be saying digital native is sort of one vague term. What else are we lumping in the or other similar terms? I do think that the existing law and the statute that says you can't post that sort of thing that seems even indirectly to be about discriminating on the basis of age would encompass that.
When you testified against this bill at the hearing last week, a lot of people who were there, they spoke in favor, and they spoke about their personal experiences with age discrimination in the workplace. What did you take away from hearing those stories?
So what I took away is that we do have a problem about communicating in the workplace with employees and understanding what is valued. I understand that people feel this way. I don't understand what employers are doing to make them feel this way necessarily. So I think we need to do a lot more work there as a state on the whole and as employers at the ground level.
Well, if you say you're not sure what employers are doing to make them feel that way, is that another way of saying that you don't actually think that age discrimination, instances of age discrimination are a serious problem in Oregon right now?
I mean, I can't answer that specifically. I mean, I can't speak to everyone's individual experience. I think that employers know what the law is, but I think employees are having a sense, a feeling that they aren't as valued as younger employees, and that's something that is about, a communication, having open communication, having a lot more of that culture change. So I don't think that that's something the law can fix.
Carla Peluso, I should remind folks, if you're just tuning in, I'm talking with Carla Peluso. She's a Democratic State Representative from Gresham, District 50. She's one of the sponsors of a bill that would increase penalties and toughen the language around age discrimination in the workplace in Oregon. She's with us, as well as Paloma Sparks, who's General Counsel for Oregon Business and Industry. They advocate on behalf of Oregon businesses. Carla Peluso, what do you make of Paloma Sparks' main argument here, which is the problem here isn't a lack of laws on the books. We've got those covered at the state and federal levels. The problem is one of awareness and education.
Yeah, and I think that's really a viable answer. My concern is if, this bill does not pass, what would happen? And if the bill doesn't pass, older workers will continue to get screened out of the hiring process before even getting an interview. Older workers on the job who are discriminated against will be prevented from seeking justice because of the high-level standard for age discrimination cases. So that's a big concern. Oregon's older workers are being discriminated every day. In the last decade, BOLI received 2,500 age discrimination complaints, about one per workday. Now's the perfect opportunity to seek justice for those workers.
Would your bill and the change in law at the state level be anything different than what we currently already have at the federal level, which lays out ways in which it's illegal to discriminate against workers who are age 40 and over?
Again, what I see happening is that age discrimination is just not being taken seriously, but the effects are very real. It can lead to people having fewer resources in retirement and more reliance on state social services instead of being able to fully participate in our economy and support themselves.
If I read your bill correctly, an employer who discriminates on the basis of gender or race or religion or sexual orientation or a few other protected classes, they currently have to pay, and would under your bill as well, under your law, they'd have to pay damages of a few $100s. But if they discriminate on the basis of age under your bill, they'd have to pay $25,000. In your mind, is age discrimination that much worse than those other forms of employment discrimination?
I think the purpose is to highlight the issue of age discrimination, and again, how it has a stronger impact on people who are aging, but still are very vital and need to have an opportunity to continue to work and to do things they would like to do.
But just to be clear, if somebody suffers discrimination at work because of their race, you're okay with them getting damages of $700 or so, and if somebody is discriminated at work based on their age, you're okay with them getting $25,000.
You know what, I will. I think you raise a really good point, and so I'm gonna need to kind of step back on that and revisit the bill.
Paloma Sparks, obviously what you're pushing for is not a change in law, but a change in public awareness, some kind of better education. Who needs to be educated?
So small businesses don't have the big staff focused on. They usually don't have attorneys on staff telling them, here's what the law is, doing a yearly check-in. BOLI has technical assistance for employers, but it's woefully understaffed. They can't make it all the way across the state. They tend to focus on the I-5 corridor. So a lot of employers are just missing out on opportunities to be educated. I know that the labor commissioner, Val Hoyle, the new labor commissioner, has really been focusing on beefing up resources available to employers. We wholeheartedly support that.
We asked our listeners if they had experiences with age discrimination. I want to play you one of the voicemails that we got.
Hi, my name is Scott Martindale. I live in Dexter, Oregon. I was told I was too old to do the job I'm doing, which is very physical, and they wanted to put me in a job that was less physical and much more boring. I feel I'm in the best shape of my life, and I can outwork over half the people at my work. I do believe this was age discrimination, but I don't want to get in trouble for it, but I thought you should know.
Carla Peluso, here's a man who he already thinks that what he was told goes against the law, but he says he didn't want to get in trouble for speaking up, so he didn't say anything. We don't know too much more about his story than what you just heard right there, but so I don't know if he actually acquiesced to management's wishes, but. It doesn't seem that your bill would directly address his situation, since he's saying, this is illegal, but I chose to not do anything to not rock the boat. What would you say to him?
Well, I would encourage him to talk with whether it's at a legislative level, whether it's really around a cup of coffee with constituents and folks that might have an opportunity to support his taking kind of control of what he has to offer.
And Paloma Sparks, what would you say to this man who called in?
I mean, I would say that, an employer who shouldn't be basing their decisions on age. It should be about ability. If he is able to do the job, then he should be able to do the job. And this is also a situation where I think that employer needs to be educated about what the law is.
Paloma Sparks and Carla Peluso, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paloma Sparks is General Counsel for Oregon Business and Industry. Carla Peluso is a Democratic state representative from Gresham. Coming up after a break, another Northwest burger chain might get a union. Workers at Little Big Burger want to follow in the footsteps of Burgerville.